The truth is, men, because we're egotistical at nature, we look at ourselves and we say, I'm good, when we're really not.
If your goal is to get to the destination, you're not going to be as happy as if you enjoy the journey to the destination.
We're influenced heavily by the media or by a group of people or by a Republican or Democratic Party or a gender or whatever it is.
Yes, like women can be strong, they can be independent, but you can't discount that man and what role he plays in society, and especially in the family unit.
A woman always dates up. They always date up. If she's making $1 million, she's not going to want to date a guy that's working at McDonald's, if we're being completely honest. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Totem podcast. I'm your host, Monico Carrillo, and always remember, guys, that an act of rebellion is to question. Today, we got a little different format today. We're meeting some great people along the way, so we're like connected with this guy, so we're like, let's do it. This would be a great opportunity for us, the audience, and just everybody in general. So here we got Eric too with us.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? Remember, before we get started, subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up if you like the conversations we're having, and share it with at least one other person.
Yeah, this guy has quite the resume. It's pretty hard just to go through it on in a few seconds, but we got the CEO and founder of the Immortal Man. Eric, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, brother.
No, thanks for connecting. I mean, that's the great thing of the digital stuff. We connected online, and we're here making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd say I'd met most of my good friends through Facebook nowadays, because I grew up in a small town of 400 people and there ain't much business owners. So reaching out and seeing the world through Facebook and being able to get on podcasts and giving your audience value is a great way to network. And I appreciate you having me.
No, yeah, I appreciate you for taking time to do this. Yeah, I love all the content that you put out there and all the different stuff, stirring up the feathers, a little bit, some people get a little offended, that's always good. That's always, that's going to be a great time. You're having great conversations when that's happening. But why do you think men lack leadership in today's era?
I believe that it comes from a fatherless society. The statistics say right now that a third of children in America are absent of their biological fathers. And those are the ones that they don't see, right? And you look at society, you look at households, and I don't know, I think that we really put ourselves in a higher standard to where we spend time with our kids, or we're present with our kids. But the majority of American men are home. When they get home, they kick their feet on the couch, right? They watch TV. They are entitled to relaxation, and they're not present, right? And I believe there's a massive amount of bad habits that inhabit a man's mind that keep him from being fully present with his family. So whether there's actual fathers in households, it doesn't make them a dad, right? And my history, my story is based, a lot of the trauma that I went through was not directly tied to having not my father there, but a lack of leadership skills in society. I pulled away from authority pretty quickly at a young age because I was legitimately molested in a church by an authority figure at 7 years old, right? And I believe that the story that you guys may hear today of my history, my testimony, had to happen to put me in a place to realize that we need to fix something in society, and that is leadership in men, right? I believe it is the only real problem in America today. I believe that if men would step up and become the leader that God has called us to be, that society would look completely different. I believe that men that are in a leadership position, if they actually held the standards that they expect everybody else to live, then we'd be living in a completely different world.
Do you think part of that too could be kind of like, say the media, I think has a big influence on how people are and stuff. And they're just like, hey, just relax, just, you deserve it. You worked hard this week. You deserve it. Just take a break. But then they're selling us this idea that, in my personal opinion, I don't think really makes sense to an extent, that it's just making you, like, I guess you could say, live a mediocre life and not enjoy that time with your family, not enjoy that time with your kids or whatever.
Right. It doesn't make sense because it doesn't work, right? A guy like you and Eric, you guys went out and started a business and decide, hey, I'm going to start thinking my own thoughts, and I want to build a life that I'm proud of, that I'm pleased with, that supports my family unit, that builds a legacy, right? And you realize that the only way you can do that is if you step out of mediocrity into a higher standard. And so that's why you have been unlocked from that way of thinking, because you decided that I want something different. I think that the majority of Americans, especially men, and I'm not saying especially men, I believe that everyone is like this. They've sold into that way of thinking when we need to learn how to have our own thoughts, which is a lot of my content is sourced. It's geared towards waking people up and putting a mirror in front of their face so that they go, wow, man, maybe that is me. Because I believe that we become pretty blind to ourselves in our way of thinking. You know, next thing we know, we're influenced heavily by the media or by a group of people or by a Republican or Democratic Party or a gender or whatever it is, right? And I think that it's truly an identity problem in America. It's that we are trying to find something that we can identify with. We're trying to find something that will accept us, that will understand us. And if we're not careful, if we don't choose God as that identity, we'll find whatever accepts us. And that will lead us down a place where we're heavily influenced in our actions in the wrong direction. Right.
And I think it's especially like now, like everything's being pushed to be more towards like empowering women and like I'm a strong independent woman and I don't need no man, you know, like the typical saying that they have. And I think everything that would better society would be going almost like against that way of thinking. Like, yes, like women can be strong and they can be independent, but you can't discount that man and what role he plays in society, and especially in the family unit. How you're saying like providing like that leadership role and that discipline for their children and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I heard a quote the other day. He said, you either let men lead or you let the devil lead. There's no in between. If you let women lead, you're going to let the devil lead, because there's no backbone. And I'm not saying anything bad about women at all, but it's just the way we were created as humans, for men to be disciplinarian, men to stand up and hold the line. And a lot of women, they won't do that. It's not written in their DNA, right?
What kind of if you don't mind me asking, what kind of like backlash, I guess you could say, that do you get from like women? Because I mean, social media, you know the social media game, that you're saying this stuff and they're just like, man, fuck this guy. Like, what's he saying? How do you deal with that? Like,
But I don't think it's just women though. I think it's a lot of men too that you're speaking facts to them and they don't want to like admit it. They don't want to admit like where they are in life.
Right. Surprisingly, I think the media makes it seem like there's a lot of women that would hate that point of view, but I believe and through experience in my life, and maybe it's just where I live, right? Maybe it's just who I've ran into, that most women want to stay home. Most women want a man in their life, right? Some women have been hurt and traumatized enough to where they've had to take that survival technique. It's a defense mechanism, become more masculine, because they didn't have a man in their life to do that for them. Right. I don't blame them for that. I blame the man. I'm going to be real with you. I get more backlash from men, or what I would say boys, than I do women. Actually, I get a lot of wives saying, man, like, I want my husband to listen to you. Right. Which, that has its problems of its own, for sure.
um, no, yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of the way, if you kind of look like history, statistic wise, usually it's controversial. They don't like it, but usually a woman always dates up. Like if we're talking about like earnings, they always date up. If she's making $1 million, she's not going to want to date a guy that's working at McDonald's. If we're being completely honest, but vice versa, it will work. So that's kind of like, I think women always want someone, even if they're empowered and they have their business, they always want someone to like have bigger, I guess, goals, be making more money, because I think it does go to like that leadership that they aspire, I guess.
Absolutely. When we look at like femininity and masculinity, I believe it's similar to the yin and the yang, right? Actually, that's what the yin and yang actually means, right? For more, if there's more femininity in the world, there's going to be more masculinity. It doesn't matter where it comes from, it's just going to come, right? And it's a matter of society protecting itself, right? But it's so how the body works. Let's just kind of put it into perspective. You know how when you go to the doctor, they say you have high cholesterol, right? You think that's a bad thing, right? Oh no, something needs to change. I have high cholesterol. What that's really telling you is that your body's trying to protect itself from something even worse. What I mean is cholesterol is actually it's not actually bad for you. It's a defense mechanism to thicken the arterial walls so that you don't get because the arterial wall is thinning. It's so what I'm saying is that when more men are being feminine, more women are going to naturally step into a more masculine role to protect society as a whole. Even though in the end that cholesterol will detach from the arterial wall and clog up the heart and create a heart attack. Same thing will happen in society. It's just a band-aid, right? It's a band-aid in their life, it's a band-aid in society, and overall, like it will be the destruction of society. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, I get how the way I like the I guess the analogy they use for it to break it down.
Yeah, I just came up with that just now. So
Okay, there you go.
That's pretty good.
It's on the fly. I like it.
What one thing?
what I was going to say is that it's a defense mechanism for a woman to become more masculine because the male figure in their life, whether it was their father or whether it's their husband or a boyfriend, isn't stepping up to that role. She literally not out of choice will step into that role. And let's just be real, women aren't that good at it.
Where does this lead us? What do you think that this leads? Like if it does keep like I guess going that way.
Well, if we look at it like on a scale just right now, right? You see a lot of men complaining about that exact scenario. Women are being too masculine, blah, 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 blah. What they're not doing is they're not taking ownership they're not taking ownership in their fault in that circumstance. They're not realizing that the women are acting this way, are behaving this way, or adapting into this masculine energy because they are not, right? And so what happens is the cycle just continues, right? The more angry they get, the more feminine they become. The more masculine women become, the worse our society gets. What men need to do is take ownership of their own individual lives and take a look and say, where am I on that scale of being a masculine man or being a feminine man? And the truth is, men, because we're egotistical at nature, we look at ourselves and we say, I'm good, when we're really not, right? Yeah. And it takes a hard spot in your life. It takes what's it called, a rock bottom in your life to make you wake up to what's real and help you realize where you actually are. I just made a post yesterday that said you can't be proud and broke at the same time.
I've seen it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's almost the same aspect. Like men will not ask for help, but they don't like where they're currently at. Albert Einstein says that a mind that creates a problem is not the same man or mind that can solve that problem, which means that you either have to learn how to solve that problem, your own problem that you created, or you have to ask for outside help to solve it for you, right? But men just say, oh, I'm good, I got this. They isolate, and then they don't like where they're at, but they won't ask for help, and that's just um that's a after effect of their pride, right?
Yeah, no, it's a goal. It's a great whole thing. How it's like your whole mentality development. How it's I mean it's came around and being able to break the things down like that. I'm curious to know, like we said at the beginning, some men aren't willing to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, "I'm fucked up. This is what's wrong with me or whatever." What was that moment for you, where you like looked at yourself in the mirror, like I don't like the person I see. I need to change something, or was it you were kind of forced to change it, or how did that go?
It's probably good I talk about this because if guys hear me, they're going to be like, he doesn't understand. So, you know what I mean? It's probably good we put some context to the timeline. So, I lived a very dark life, right? I already said 7 years old, I got molested, right? If you were to look at my family that I grew up in from the outside, it looked great. From my perspective, it was horrific. And the reason why I perceived it as that is because of what happened to me at a young age, right? It's a great way to say that it doesn't matter what situation you're in. If your attitude is off, then you're going to create a worse reality. So if that makes sense, right? A lot of people aren't grateful for what they have, is really what I'm saying. They don't see what is actually in front of them, and they're so focused on the pain or the future, what they can't have, or the past, that they just create a worse and worse reality. That was my life, right? And I'm not saying that what happened to me at 7 was my fault, but everything after that was, right? And what I mean by that, and I can say that because I've healed effectively, and I could look back and I learned from everything that I put myself through, which is most things I put myself through. That's that ownership, and some things I didn't, but I still put myself in the way of that, right? And so because my perspective was flawed, I went through life as a victim. And as a victim, you'll be treated differently. And you'll put yourself through different things, right? You'll attract the wrong things. And so at the age of 8, started using drugs, and I used drugs up until the age of 24, right? And I'm not talking about smoking weed, bro. I'm talking about methamphetamine, cocaine, pills, Adderall, Xanax, you name it. I've been addicted to most things in my life except for heroin, thank God.
Wait, did he say at the age of 8?
At the age of 8, I started using drugs, and the first thing I ever took was a painkiller from my mom's, pill stash. I didn't know what it was, right? This is a perfect setup from the devil. I took a pill and it made me feel good, and then I just didn't stop. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that I felt normal and I didn't have any more pain. Does that make sense? Like I was normal. I could laugh. I can smile again, and that was, I felt understood by that drug, right? And I could effectively say this is that my drug use throughout my entire life was not to feel pleasure, but it was to stay alive, right? Drugs saved my life for 16 years, bro. They saved my life. If I didn't take drugs, I would have killed myself, and I can guarantee that, right? And so that's the state I was in my entire life, survival. And going through life fights, I was a bad kid, didn't listen to my teachers, didn't listen to any authority. Truth be told, that was my biggest problem, is I didn't trust authority because of what happened to me. So anytime anyone told me to do anything, I would just rebel. And that leads you down, not a good path. But at the age of 17, I was addicted to cocaine. My dad was a police officer. He found the cocaine on me. I got kicked out of the house. I was homeless at 17 years old. I went over to a friend's house, and the next day I woke up and I told him, bro, I gotta quit. I need to quit doing coke. I need to quit doing drugs. Look what it's doing to my life. And he's like, you want to hit? You want to bump? And I took a bump, and that was the first time I took methamphetamine. Right. So then I went 2 years of taking methamphetamine at extreme doses, became, I had drug induced psychosis. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating for weeks at a time. I was seeing things. I was the guy on the side of the road, sucked up, skinny, screaming at cars, thinking I was seeing demons, angels. I had complete psychosis, right? My brain was absolutely melted. I remember blinking my eyes and just waking up in different places like I was skipping through time. I had no idea of what reality was. I was showing signs of schizophrenia. And then I went to jail at the age of 19. Or it was the end of 18 years old, went to jail. But during this time of methamphetamine use, right, I started, this is what I was talking about, identity. I believe that since the time we're born, we're all seeking the kingdom of heaven. What I mean by that is we're all seeking some way to fill that hole in our heart that we all have, the one that we can never fill with money, that one that we always want more. We always want more. It's never enough money. It's never enough drugs. It's never enough women. It's never enough titles. It's never enough whatever, you name it. Name your vice, right? God's the only thing that can fill that. And me having family issues, me having the life that I lived, I found my family, and that was within gangs, drugs, right? And I started connecting with some of the most notorious prison gangs in California and started distributing methamphetamine for that. And I watched some of the most evil fucking things that a man should ever see, things that most people do not survive from, most things that people do not come back from mentally or emotionally. right? And things that put my life in danger for the rest of my life, things that make me have nightmares, things that I will never be able to take back. I wasn't directly affiliated in those things, but I watched it happen. I didn't do anything about it, right? And so coming out of that life into sobriety, it took a long time for me to forgive myself, and it took me a long time to get through those traumas in my life. Just from the age of 8 to 24, it was trauma after trauma after trauma. And what that does to a human is when you get into a marriage and you find love and it's good, you will find a way to mess it up. When you get into a business and you're like, I need to get my life together, let's build something great, you will find a way to mess it up, right? There's that PTSD aspect of when you go through massive trauma, you'll have self-sabotage patterns, you'll have all sorts of things that make you feel as if you do not deserve anything but death. And so I kept slipping into addiction, slipping into alcoholism, slipping into self sabotage. I messed up my family, man. I betrayed my wife. I betrayed my son. I woke up and I watched them pack their bags and leave. I spent 4 months. This is at the age of 24. I spent 4 months drinking and doing drugs to just end it, bro, just to take away the pain. 4 months later, I'm sitting on my bed with half a handle of a whiskey and a Glock 23 in my mouth, nobody to call, nobody to leave a note to, decided this is it. You know what I mean? And it was that moment where I was like, there's nothing else. Everything I touch dies. Everything I do, I fail. Nobody loves me. Victim, 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 right? And I remember sobbing and just slobbering on that gun with it in my mouth, with my finger on the trigger. And then God gave me a vision. And it wasn't a good one. It was the vision, people have the stories like, and I had a vision. No, it wasn't like that, bro. I watched it, I envisioned my dad or my son calling someone else dad. You know what I mean?
That's deep.
It infuriated me. And I decided at that time, this used to be my old tagline, that I was going to be that motherfucker. I'm going to be him. And out of like almost anger and jealousy, and I didn't want to see my son call another man dad, I decided to take that gun out of my mouth. And then God started to move my life in great ways, in great ways. And
It, it,
that was that moment.
it's interesting that you talk.
Appreciate for appreciate for telling us that story. I mean, it's great. On it.
Yeah, for sure. Whereas I find it interesting that like you had that situation that can happen to you when you're 7 years old in the church, um, but then you still like continue to believe in God. A lot of times that would flip people the complete 180 and be completely away from Him. What kind of made you like stay with it, or like stay like with God and still believing in Him despite that?
I love that. I love when people bring that up. And the reason why is I believe that that moment was exactly why it needed to happen for this story right here, this testimony, is that 95% of humans that go through a hardship in church where the church doesn't treat them right, they walk away from God. I've realized that, and through all my struggles, I've realized, and I had this is a lot of people need to realize this. And I hope that my testimony gets people back in church and gets people back in their faith, because God did not do that to me. God did not do that. Man did, right? And we go into church and we expect perfection, but really, where there's humans, there's corruption. And where there's humans, there's evil. And where there's humans, and we got to remember that we are just like them. It don't matter if you're at a church, if you've broken a commandment, you've sinned ever. God sees you just as bad as the people that kill people. It doesn't matter. It says in the Bible that no man is good. No man is good. No, not one, except for God alone. And God, being a perfect man, Jesus, would never and could never do that. Actually, throughout all of those struggles of my life, God never left me. He never forsake me. And everybody else did. Right. And so why that's the beauty of it, man. God gifted me with faith, and I believe that I was chosen because I don't see any other person going through a situation like that, relying on God 100% and still going into the church and building a community himself. You know what I mean? Now, I think things could be changed. Absolutely. I think that leaders should be held accountable to a higher standard. Absolutely. That's something that I'm going to do. But God didn't do that to me. God allowed it to happen so that I could share this today.
That's powerful, because a lot of people will hear similar stories and just completely just turn away from God when, like you were saying, like anything bad that happens in the world, because people are like, oh, if God was real, then why would He allow all this bad stuff to happen in the world? Like, why is there all these wars and these killings and stuff? But it's what you were saying. It's like that is not God. That's man, and in man there's evil, and there's evil in the world, which is why like you still have to believe in God to be able to like power through that. And
100%. What I like to say is that God can't be glorified in your silence. God can't be glorified in your perfection, right? Sin is allowed in this world to see the contrast of what God is, right? If you didn't have rainy days, then you wouldn't notice the beauty on the sunny days, right? If it was always sunny, you would not recognize the beauty that we walk out to every single day. And it's the same with our lives. A lot of people, they go into private and they expect God to heal them so that they can come back into public and pretend like they never needed healing in the first place. But it's guys like me, it's guys that talk about it, that share their story, that tell their that you know that turn their tests into testimonies that give God the glory, right? That's what makes people believe is stories like this through humanity, through human experience, through actual trials and tribulations. You know how many people are going to listen to this and relate to it? Hundreds. I bet millions have on my stories. I guarantee it that millions, hundreds of millions of people will listen to stories like mine and go, man, I know exactly how he feels. If he can do it, through God, I should do it through God. And that's what matters. You know what I mean? God's glorified in that. But for the longest time, I'll tell you what, is that I, I took the glory for a long time. I did. And that didn't get me nowhere. You know, a lot of us think that we got this and we're strong as men. And we have a lot of strength. There's no doubt. We have a lot of mind power. We can stand up every day and do the right thing. There's no doubt. But I mean, it's not about being good either. It's not just about being good, you know?
Why do you think that like you're open about all your failures and struggles and everything? Why do you think other people like they're afraid to show the struggles, their failures? Like in reality, like none of us are perfect. We're all going through stuff, and then like you're saying, someone always can relate to the story, and there's probably going to be millions that do, millions of people that are doing it. But to talk about it, like people are, I don't know, they're like kind of scared. They want to seem perfect, especially when it goes into like business owners. Like they have to be like look like nothing's ever going to go wrong with it.
I think it's a fear of going back. I believe that truly. I think it's a fear of going back, the possibility that they may continue doing it or that they're still in the struggle and they're not there yet. This the thing, the imposter syndrome, right? Oh, I'm not there yet. I will wait till I'm there to talk about it. And it's like, bro, it's like what I says, God can't be glorified in your silence. Like, I believe truly that God will keep you in your suffering until you speak about it most of the time, right? Because that's what he's using to spread the word. And for you to go ask for help is where God truly helps you. And sometimes he'll leave you in that if you isolate. But I believe that a lot of people deal with imposter syndrome, that they're not there yet to tell the story, right? Or it could simply just be pride and ego. They believe that their reputation will be hurt through it. We're taught and we're wired as kids, as men, as boys. We are wired that like talking about our problems is not okay, right? And that's literally this society. That's America. And it's exactly a huge problem in society is that like kids they're taught not to process your emotions, like go deal with your stuff in your room. I don't want to hear it, right? How many times do you see that, or how many times has that happened to you as a kid where your dad just says go to your room, I don't want to hear it? I mean, that was me, bro. And that's most kids. And what happens is when they become adults, they don't know how to process their emotions, they don't know how to feel their emotions, and they don't know how to express their emotions, and so they depress it, they push it down until it becomes too strong, and then that's where anger comes, that's where addiction comes, that's where a lack of emotional intelligence comes, right? I think that when we have a guide helping us process what's going on inside of us, then we can be more aware of what's going on inside of us and use it for the right things.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to know. 'Cause people that don't know you're pretty fucking jacked. And then you see the before and after photos. Like you're pretty scrawny, you know, back then too. Probably because maybe I don't know the drugs and stuff like that too.
Just
But
tweet.
what? Yeah. Wait, when did you start working out, or how did you feel like? Because for me personally, I work out, you feel better, you perform better, you know. So you start working out more. Did you feel like there was something like that for you why you started doing it, or you just start, or why did you start, or when did you start?
And I've always enjoyed activity. So I grew up in a small town of 419 people. We didn't have a TV, we didn't have internet, and so I grew up outside, right? In school, like my dad was a great dad. God bless him. He did the best he could with me. I was a little asshole. So yeah, for a long time I blamed a lot of my struggles on my dad. I'm not gonna lie, but now I look back, I'm like, dude, like I have a kid, I have a son now. And when you have a son, you realize, like, oh my God, dad, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Um, he's yeah. So my dad was a Folsom prison guard, right? I had an older brother, and we lived in the country. So if you kind of put these things together, like we were outside all the time. Me and my brother was always fighting. And then my dad, he was a disciplinarian, and he also taught us how to work hard and outwork everybody. And so I've always had like hard work put in discipline put into my bones at a young age, right? So what I would say, and I wrestled for 7 years, middle school and high school. That's one thing I did. But so I always had this like love for it, but I wasn't practicing consistency, and I liked drugs more, right? And so when I quit, it was a day after my attempt to suicide, and I decided to get my life together. I knew that something had to replace my addiction. And so I went to the gym, and I started going to the gym twice a day because I was craving multiple times a day. So I'd go before work and after work for like 3 hours each. And I did that for 6 months. And I started eating better, and I watched my body start to transform. And when you're tweaking for years and years and you're not eating because you're a drug addict, what happens is you don't realize what your genetic potential is. Actually, I was pretty surprised. I put on muscle very quickly, and so it was working phenomenally in so many different areas of my life. It's helping my mental state, it's helping my physical state, my confidence, my discipline levels, the way I started and finished things, all sorts of stuff, right? I started to notice those connections. It was giving me all the endorphins that I was chasing in the gym, and it was also setting me up to live an obedient life today for God, and I didn't realize that, right? I believe that people that don't take care of their body also have a hard time being obedient to God, and they also have a hard time being consistent at the habits that are going to get them from where they are to where they want to be. I think a monk said once that the highest form of discipline is controlling what you ingest, and it's so true. It's what we consume, right? What we watch, who we hang around, what we eat, what we drink. We can control those things. You can do anything. So I started then, and I'm an obsessive person, right? If anybody knows how addiction works, like we have an obsessive gene. I have two of those. So when I do something, I go all in. So 5 years ago, I started that, and I've gained 95 pounds of muscle since.
95 pounds. Damn. Okay. That's impressive.
Damn.
I'm 5'7", 240 pounds, and I never lost my abs the whole time.
Shit. That's good. No, I'm not. No, that's great. So how does that transition? Do you think how did you see it transitioning from like you see all those things working for you personally, like the gym, just that disciplined mindset to the Immortal Man? How did that come along?
So the Immortal Man was a shift in my life from when I was giving Eric the glory to when I started giving God the glory. Before the Immortal Man, I was a fitness coach. I was an online fitness coach. I have over 400 transformations as a fitness coach. You ran that for 3.5 years. It was a multiple six-figure company that I ran by myself, made a lot of money. It was great. And then what happened is God twisted me one day, and he just, simple question. He asked me, when are you going to give me the glory? When are you going to stop lying? Is really what he asked. Because what I would do is I'd go on podcasts, and this was my own pride. I'd go on podcasts like this, and I would tell my story, and I'd be like, yeah, I did that. That was me. I did all that. And I didn't realize that I didn't do none of that, bro. You know what I mean? Like, that was God. There's no way I'd be alive if Eric did that, right? God was with me the whole time, and I believed in God, but I did never really surrendered to him. And so God just twisted me one day, and in that twist I lost passion for what I was doing. And I would wake up every day like, there's something more. God told me there's something more for you, and you need to be doing something else. I didn't know what it was. But when I lose passion for something, I lose motivation in my life, my mind starts going, something needs to change. And so what I did is I started a rebranding process. And next thing I know, I get the seed planted in my head, um, to start giving God the glory. And the Immortal Man was built. It's a Christ-centered leadership development company, and it's pretty it's the most powerful thing I've ever built. And it's because God built it with me. And the coolest part about it is that we are developing Christian men into influential and successful leaders, that by unlocking their God-given potential. So if you look at the program itself, it's a story of my life, bro. Right? It's a story of my life and everything that I went through, everything that I became, and then everything I believe in, all in one program and brand. And so everything that in my life packed into one, I've me and God placed into a program, and now we get to develop Christian men into great leaders, which is exactly what I wish I had in my life when I was going through that stuff in my childhood. Right. So this has been a healing process for me too. It's pretty amazing.
So the Immortal Man is kind of like a community, a brotherhood of guys. Just like talk me through it a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So we have a program called the Immortal Brotherhood, right? It is our group coaching program. It's a small group, intimate setting, but it's a small group, multiple small groups of purpose driven Christian men that are dedicated to winning, right? But also our fathers, husbands. They want to lead their family into greatness. They want to learn how to lead their life better. They want to be more disciplined, and they want to leave a legacy on this earth. And so what we do is we live by 8 non-negotiables every single day, right? We have an accountability system that is unlike any other program in the world, right? If anybody here is listening to this and has had a coach, they're going to tell you, and we're going to hold you accountable, and they really don't, right? You can start skipping stuff, and they're not going to call you up and be like, bro, where are you at? You didn't do your stuff, right? The way we have it is it's called an atonement system, right? We meet every week. We do 8 non-negotiables every day, similar to 75 hard, but it is more God focused. And we also have a course, but none of that really matters. What matters is every single day our clients have to do the 8 non-negotiables, and you have to check in. Now, if it's a non-negotiable, which is going to build your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional health, and you miss the call, each thing you slip on counts as burpees. Okay. And at the end of the week, your group of 6, 7 guys, we all add those burpees up into one big number, and everybody has to pay for each other. Does that make sense? So when you slip, everybody has to pay for it. It's an atonement. And what's cool about this is we have a common purpose and a common enemy. The common purpose is we all want to be the best. The common enemy is burpees, right? And so what it does, it forces everybody, it empowers everybody to step up and help each other. When one guy's slipping, we go check on that guy. We lift each other up. You cannot quit. You cannot pull out. You are committed. And sometimes we do 200 burpees, bro. Sometimes we do 0. And what's cool is that you get to watch these guys bond together in a way that you would probably see in the military, and you would probably see in, like as firefighters or cops, but you don't see anywhere else in the world, right? And it's number one, it's rewiring your mind to take ownership that if you slip, your family, your clients, your employees, the people you lead feel that they are paying for for the consequences of your slip ups. That's a fact, right? And so it rewires you to take ownership of, hey, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. The second thing it does is when you do 8 things every single day for a, a distance of 12 weeks, you're going to get a result, bro. Right? You will get a result. And then it also helps you, it rewires your mind to create a belief system that, hey, if I stick to what I say I'm going to do, I'm going to become whoever I want to be. Right? It's all about consistency. It's all about ownership. It's all about discipline. But the coolest part of it is we're also helping you understand what your identity is as a man, not what I think your identity should be, but what your identity is. We help you find why God created you as a person, what your purpose is, what your core values are, what your mission is. We help you through biblical principles of Jesus Christ and his walk. We teach you how to be a servant leader, and we also have you plan your legacy of what you want to leave behind in people. It's extremely powerful.
I think that's like super cool because it's like someone becoming like a better version of themselves through discipline and becoming that immortal man. But in order to become that immortal man, it's like you have that brotherhood. You don't want, like, yes, you don't want to let yourself down like by missing those non-negotiables every day, but you also don't want to let your bros down either. So you're building it all together, which is really cool though.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, we will tend to slip when we have to deal with the consequences. But when other people do, we don't want to be that guy, right? So
You feel even worse and more like, ah, shit, like I let him down, like it's on me.
And most of the people that are like in the program that go through it, are they mostly like business owners, just like an everyday guy, or like what type of, I guess,
anyone that's in a leadership position is welcome. The majority of our clients are entrepreneurs, but we also got some construction workers. We got guys that are just fathers or husbands, guys that or lead teams, for their job, whether it's construction or a sales team. As long as you're a leader and consider yourself a leader, and your other people's lives are in your hands, this is where you belong.
it's great. I wanted to ask you about some videos I seen that you had done before and stuff, and you have a hat. It says Anti Guru Club. Talk to me. How'd you? What does it mean to you, or how'd you come up with it?
Anti-Guru Club is actually my buddy. You guys probably know him, Zach Williams. It's his
Okay.
it's his brand, right?
Okay.
And what it means is that everybody out there that's a guru, to me, this is what it means. Everyone out there that calls himself a guru does not live by what they teach. And or they tell you it's worked when it's worked for one guy, and and then they sell you on something that doesn't work. So gurus, I'm an anti-guru, right? What I do is I have taught the same thing since I started doing this, and it's exactly what I've been doing for over 5 years. It's not just proven in me, but it's also been proven in 450 other guys. Like, it's not about what I can leave in you or I can teach you as an individual. It's what you can bring out in yourself by putting in the work, right? So many people are looking for the easy way to do things, for the magic button, for the secret sauce, when in truth, like, no, bro, you got to do the work, and there's no shortcuts. And through the work that you do, you're going to find out the character that you have, which is going to create the result that you want, right? There's no easy way, there's no shortcut, there is no perfect blueprint, but it's legitimately about the action that you take. And so when you go find someone to mentor you, you go find somebody to teach you or to guide you, number one, make sure that they've been in the situation you're in, and they also have the core values that you have, and they also are where you want to go. If that makes sense. Practice what you preach.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the biggest. That's huge because like you're saying, it's I think we always try to like, I'll be happy when I get this to this place, you know, aspire to be like in that spot, and that's when I'm going to be happy. And I think if you're going, if your goal is to get to the destination, you're not going to be as happy as if you enjoy the journey to the destination. And I used to think that was a big change in my personal like mindset. I used to be like, oh yes, when I get this and I get this, I'm going to be good. And then it's like, you know, you just go back a couple of years and you're like, that version that was you, it's a complete different version. And I think that's the big part of it in that. But then going kind of with the guru thing, that's interesting because everyone, I mean, social media does us a big favor there. Everyone's a guru now, right? I call them like the smoke sellers. They're selling you something. They're selling you a product. They're selling you something, but they don't really. The way they're making money is selling you that one thing, but they've never really practiced it. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, how do you know if it works? Well, they don't know. They're just, that's the way they're making their money, just telling you it works. They don't know if it does though.
Yeah. So for example, I just followed, there's three guys, they're fitness guys, and I won't name them because I'm not that guy, but they work together and they're just, it's, you know, they're the tatted ex-con fitness coach.
Oh, we know who they are.
They all got
We all
beards.
know it.
Yeah. Okay. So for example, these guys, they add me, they hit me up in the DMs. They're like, hey, bro, how much you make? Blah, blah, like we can help you. And I was just asking them simple questions like, what can you offer me that I'm not already doing? What is it that you guys do? And he told me all the things. And I was like, I already do those things, bro. Like, I'm good and I don't need it. And so, but he kept pushing. He kept pushing. He's like, you should be getting way more likes and engagement on your stuff. And I was like, bro, I got 120,000 followers on TikTok. I'm doing just fine. And you know what? Like, I don't know what your guys' way is, but then I start going looking in his post, and I'm looking at all his comments, and they're bot, bro. They're bot. And how I know that is there's 4 words on each comment. You look at the patterns, you'll find them. There's 4 words. And the guys that are commenting on the content, if you go look at their profile, they have nothing in common with tatted ex-cons doing fitness. You know what I mean? And so, and the reason why I know this is because I fell for it like 3 years ago. I fell for it. I bought one of those programs. I deleted my Instagram because like it gave me 10,000 followers. I'm an authentic person, bro. I teach people my mess up so that they don't make the same ones. I bought 10,000 followers. I bought this thing. You paid $300 a month and you get like 600 comments on each post, and they're all 4 words. And there's so many fake people out there, bro, that will sell you a $3,000, $5,000 program and give you absolutely nothing back except for a way to get fake engagement or fake results or no results at all, right? And so what I would like, my message to people is like, do it the hard way, be patient, and when good things come, it's because you fucking deserved it. It's not because you went out there and got it by cheating people or by paying people to like your stuff. You know what I mean? Because I actually had to start over. I realized, like, I mean, it never made me a single dollar.
No, for us too. Like we see that a lot because like with what we do, you know, so we do marketing, digital marketing, so we know all about that stuff. You know, like hey, do this, you know, and you can get all this traction, and it's all out there, and it's I think and it's really easy, like because sometimes we turn into desperate mode. We're just like, dude, I just want to get more hits, or I want to do this, and it's really easy, just that shiny light there. But then, like you said, you're gonna in the long run, you're gonna come off of like disingenuous, not authentic, and people are they're gonna read right through it.
Yeah, the right people will.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, too. With that exact scenario, it's like drugs, bro. It's validation. When you're getting validated on things that aren't meant to be validated, you're gonna keep doing it, right? So simply put, like if you're a drug addict and your mom's like, it's okay, you went through a hard time as a kid, so he'll, well, is that going to make you quit when she's feeding you every day and giving you a house to live in? No, you know what's going to get you to quit is when your mom kicks you out of the fucking house and says, I never want to talk to you again. Get sober and we'll talk again. Right. So what happens with these guys, they pay for followers and their content sucks. Then they just keep making shitty content and they don't know like what's good and what's not, right? It's the failures in our life, or it's the lack of reward in our life that makes us and sharpens our tools so that we can come in and bring more value. You know what I mean? So that's how I see it. And that was my problem when I was getting all these fake engagements on a post. I was like, was that a good post? You know what I mean? Was it actually good? And so it wasn't until I deleted it and then started posting, I'm like, damn, those weren't good posts. I'm getting 7 likes, right? That's just the reality. Maybe I should change some shit up, right?
Yeah, that's the dangers of social media. It's like just because you have like an account, like people think they have like that they're entitled to have like a voice out there. Like yes, everybody should speak their mind and everything, but then when they're trying to tell hundreds of thousands of people whatever a certain way to do things, it's like, or should you actually pay attention to this person? It's like, is what they're saying actually true, or are you just listening to them because they have a bunch of followers?
Yeah, 100%, bro. I've I had to post about 1,000 videos before anyone went viral. And I remember like in the beginning, I would post and I'd just be like, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Right. Like I had those moments where I felt I deserved it and it wasn't coming. Um, but you got to get over that, bro. Because if you keep doing it and you keep learning through practice and repetition and market research and understanding, you guys know all about market research. It's a very important piece to building content or marketing pieces, right? You out there and figure out what's working, what's not, what people are listening to. If you do your research and actually are diligent in the work you do, you can make shit move. But most people are lazy.
Sometimes I like to think of it like God is testing you to see how bad you want it before you actually get there. If you're gonna take shortcuts, then you probably don't want it that bad. But God's testing you is like your time's gonna come. It's just how much are you willing to work for it?
That's very true. And I also believe authenticity is a massive piece of that as well. Right? If you're putting content out there that's not authentic to you, maybe it's above your level, or let's say you're telling people to be mentally tough, but you cry yourself to sleep every night. Right? Let's just say you tell people not to drink and you're drinking every night. Well, you don't just, you know what I mean? Like God will withhold that. I think he should. Or, on the opposite side, the devil might make that blow up to make you fail. You know what I mean? Like you never know.
Make you think you're doing good and then pull it out from under you when you're least expecting it.
100%, bro. It, social media is crazy, bro. It's crazy.
What about the because a lot of people, I mean, they start giving you hate and stuff like that because you're like you're trying to develop. I mean, you're not trying. You are doing it, developing Christian leaders. But then they're like, oh, but he used too much profanity. He says like, oh, fuck this, fuck you, and fuck How to talk to me through that?
That's a good topic. And so simply put, I'm not perfect. Okay. People need to remember that. I'm also not a pastor. And I don't claim to be a pastor. I don't speak in front of churches and say the F word. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a guy. I'm growing every single day. I'm getting closer with God every single day. I will tell you this. I've quit almost every drug known to man. When God told me it was time to quit, I quit and it went away. Right. So if God tells me to quit cussing, I will do it. Dude, I get like 100 people in my messages a day saying you need to stop cussing and saying Jesus at the same time. I mean, I'm not saying it like word for like, I'm not saying F Jesus. I'm not saying that. Just like if I'm a Christian, I can't cuss. I get those messages all the time. Human guilt will never move me, bro. I already told you guys my story, right? Since the age of 7, I never listened to another man. I still have a hard time listening to other men, right? And most of the time, because their intentions aren't good, the second God tells me something, I listen, right? The second God convicts me that my cussing needs to go, I will cuss. I will stop that day and I will never cuss again. That's a fact. But I also like to tell people like this. Hey, I get if I was a pastor, it would be a different story. I get that. But I'm not a pastor. I'm just a guy right now. I'm just a normal guy. Why should I wait till I'm perfect to speak about God? And the other thing is, don't you think that God or Jesus wants me to speak to a certain demographic of men so they can be reached and be brought to that narrow path that leads to Christ? See, here's the thing is that a lot of Christians believe that if you can't speak about Jesus unless you do it perfectly. And Jesus came here on earth and he hung out with the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the addicts, the drunkards. He didn't come here and hang out with the people that didn't cuss or didn't do anything bad, right? And so why should I? Why should I speak to the people that are already believers? What if Jesus wants me to come here and speak to people that are struggling in life and still saying the F bomb? Because I'll tell you this, a lot of people that come to me, they're like, I like you because you're real, you're authentic, and you don't leave anything on the table, right? And you make it seem like it's possible for me as a sinner that I can love God too. And I think that's pretty cool. But if God tells me not to cuss, then I'll stop. That simple.
That's awesome. Now I like how you used to say, "I'm just an average dude that does this," because everyone's always like, "It's because I don't got the talent, I don't got the resources to do something." Like they're just thinking that you're just like magically gifted, and it's like, well, some people might be, but like most of us aren't. It's just you're just willing to outwork, put the work in that's required.
Absolutely. I'm just a little obsessive. That's the only thing I got. You know what I mean?
And it's a lot more relatable for like the average person or whatever to see you like just being you, because people just see you just being you, then they're gonna be like, oh, if he's doing it, if he can do it, then why can't I? What's stopping me from getting there? And if a little bit of cussing is gonna ruin your day or make you not listen to what you have to say, then that's on you. That's that's like a small piece that you're paying attention to like this whole message that's getting across.
The Bible says that we should not curse, right? Cursing is saying what okay, I heard somebody say this. Cursing isn't cussing and using profanity. It's putting somebody down, right? It says we're not supposed to degrade people, right? If you say the F word to motivate people, it's not a sin. It is not a sin. I don't care what you say, right? But what is a sin is when your kid comes in and he acts and he says the F word and the parents shame that kid and they tell them that they're going to go to hell and that they need to change or God's going to punish them. That's cursing, right? And a lot of parents do this. A lot of people do this. A lot of Christians do this. They put people down and say that you need to change. You're not good enough. I get this every single day, 100 times in my DMs. I get cursed by Christians to say that I am not allowed to be here because of my voice. That's cursing. So they justify they try to correct my cussing through cursing, which is the actual sin, right? And even cursing yourself is a sin, telling yourself in your thoughts that I'm not good enough, right? Because those words destroy lives. It does. You tell a kid he's dumb his whole life, he starts to believe it, it will destroy his entire future. That's what a curse is. You know what I mean? Those are things that affect. When I say you fucking got this, bro, that's gonna make you jump, bro. That's gonna make you get up and go to work.
It's gonna get people's attention to actually get their shit together and get going.
Yeah, 100%.
What's one tip that you would give to like some guy that's just right now, just like getting drugged through the mud, like life's just kicking his ass. Like, what's one thing you would tell him like to start doing? If there was like, I mean, obviously it's hard to give like context to each
I could
person.
say, I could say personally right now, like this is part of life. It's for a purpose. Your pain, there's a purpose to your pain. Right now in my life, currently, I'm going through one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. I still showed up to this podcast with a smile on my face and gave value, right? I chose and I choose every day not to let my current circumstance affect my reactions. And if I decide to react negatively to my negative circumstance, it will create a horrible reality that I won't want to live in. See, a lot of people need to realize that life is it's 90% reaction, 10% circumstance. And it doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter if the world is burning around you. You get the choice of how to react to that. And if you react negatively, of course, you're going to have a horrible time. Bro, you just have to look around you, and you legitimately need to be grateful for what you have and thank God for the test, because it's going to build the character needed in order to carry out the purpose that God has for you. But if you are in a negative mindset, God can't use you. If you're using drugs, God can't use you. If you're using alcohol, God can't use you. If you're cheating on your wife, if you're doing this, that, God can't use you. Remain obedient to God. Allow this to be a test of your character, because something that I say is that your true character is defined by who you are when everything's taken from you, when everything's fallen apart. That's who you really are, right? And if you're the guy that's still smiling in those moments because you know God's got you, then God will use you for great and powerful things, right? A man that is grateful for his breath alone in the necessities of life, the simplicities, necessities of life, is unstoppable. Be unstoppable.
Damn, bro, we couldn't end it any better. You dropped the bombs there, and I love it. I mean, I love the energy you have, the the willingness that you have to like help people and get them out, because you actually went through the struggle. You know what it feels like to get people out of there, and
And also the just the humility that you bring to the table, just like then knowing you're not perfect, knowing that you started off rock bottom and then you fucking were able to pull yourself up from that and get to where you are today.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
So where could people find you? Because I know you're killing it on TikTok, but where else could they find you?
Yeah, man. Any social media, if you type the real Eric Rogers, you'll find me. Um, yeah, that's TikTok, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. You can hit me up there. If you watch this, if you listen to this, what I would like is for y'all to reach out to me and let me know your biggest takeaway. I love to hear from the people I gave value to. I'd love to hear what you learned or what you got out of it. Don't be shy. I would love to hear from you guys. Or if you want to check out the Immortal Brotherhood, we have a website. We have a website under construction right now, but let me pull this up real quick. Give me 1 second.
you got the landing page and stuff though right there for is it right?
Okay, cool. I believe that is apply.theimmortalman.com /join. Yeah, that's it. Apply.theimmortalman.com /join. But if you just want to talk, get to know me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, and then reach out.
Awesome, man. I mean, I appreciate it. Appreciate your time today, and hopefully, I mean, people should go back and rewatch this a few times, because I mean, I'm gonna personally go back and rewatch it a couple times, because it was you dropped the heat on it, bro. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, bro. I'm here. If you guys need anything, or just let me know, bro. I'm here to give value.
Okay, and remember, guys, that an act of rebellion is to question. Appreciate it.
Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated, yeah.